Matt Mercer makes D&D combat look so fun, intense, and easy, and he's watched by so many people, which made me wonder, why do so many DMs struggle with running interesting fights? I've been DMing for over 20 years, and along the way, I've learned that if you hope tension will magically appear on its own, your combats will just stay predictable, and you will end up risking DM burnout. So in this video, I'll break down exactly how Matt Mercer designs fights that actually feel epic, so you can run combats that are easier to prep, feel more exciting at the table, and are truly memorable for your players. Alright, so for our first step, before we dive in the Mercer magic in a second, I want to tell you about this screenwriting guy, Robert McKee. He's had an impact on basically everyone in Hollywood at this point. And I'm telling you about him because even though he is not a D&D guru, he has this rule which I believe 100% applies to D&D encounter design. Every scene must contain a turning point. And by that, he means a shift in values, like from hope to despair or safety to danger. In a movie, if nothing changes emotionally between the start and the end of a scene, the scene failed. Stuff can have happened. Maybe there was, dialogue and people moving around, but if the emotional state at the end is the same as it was at the beginning, the scene didn't work. And all the movie scenes and D&D fights are different. I believe they have more in common than we might think. And most D&D fights don't pass this test, which is part of the reason why they feel hollow. Because D&D is a game and has rules, we spend a lot of time designing for them. Making sure the action economy works, the balance is right, etc. And sure, those things matter. And resource management is actually important. But if your fights are only about those things, they will eventually just feel like math and not stories. Which is a shame because the game gives us the possibility to do both those things. When players look back at a game, most of the time they don't remember how much damage they dealt. But they do remember a moment where everything changed. Like if they realized the enemy wasn't who they thought, for example. By the way, I think this is a good moment for me to tell you that there are a few Critical Role spoilers in this video. So if you have episodes to catch up on, you've been warned. With that out of the way, how does Matt do it? Well, think about the Lorenzo ambush fight in Campaign 2, for example. I think what this fight did, story-wise, is it transformed the party, which went from underdogs having adventures to humiliated and grieving. And there are tons of such examples in the Critical Role campaigns. Like the Kevdak fight in Campaign 1 shifted Grog from exiled in shame to triumphant over his past. My point is, no matter what the mechanics of those fights were, both of them served a transformation. The HP going down stuff was just a vehicle carrying the actual story. And the good thing is, even though Matt Mercer is extremely talented, I don't think him being able to do this means he is using dark magic. The one thing you need to do to reproduce this is to ask yourself a question before you design your encounters. What's the scene about? What value shifts? And to answer it, I suggest you go through these 3 steps. First is all about the opening value. What does the party actually feel at the start of this encounter? Are they confident or desperate? Maybe overconfident? Try not to guess. The good news is you're playing your story. So use it to answer this. Then you focus on the closing value. What do you think they should or will feel walking out? Maybe shaken or victorious but at cost? Maybe terrified? It should be something different from where they started. Just staying confident is not memorable. The Kevdak fight shows this clearly. Defeating the bad guy was part of it, but the encounter could end with Grog triumphing over his trauma. And then, and this is key, create a pivot point. What in the fight makes that transformation happen? What's the point of origin of that shift? I believe Mercer is really good at this. For example, in the fight against Vecna in Campaign 1, the Lich identified Grog as the biggest physical threat because he was wielding the Sword of Cass. So Vecna cast Maze on him. He knew his low intelligence meant he couldn't escape easily. So Matt essentially told the players, I know your weaknesses, and I will exploit them, which acted as this turning point and set the mood. There are many things that could be that turning point, like a move from the opponents, just like in the Vecna example, but also the terrain changing or countdown. Try to be creative here, but the point is, something should trigger that emotional shift. I don't think you should hope for it to happen organically, you should design for it. But if you want maximum impact, I think this concept needs to be taken a bit further. By the way, if you're looking for a quick way to start experimenting with the techniques I'm showing you guys in this video, I made something called Streets and Stakes. It's a D&D urban combat toolkit with 15 locations, and they all come with atmosphere, environmental actions, and round-by-round escalation clocks to help you make your fight feel alive. You can get it by itself, but it's also available through my Patreon, along with other resources like NPC packs and all my video scripts. So check out the link in the description. Alright, so back to it, how do we take the design for change principle further? For this, I'd like to take you on a little thought experiment. Try to imagine a heist movie where every character has the same job, like everyone's the getaway driver. Nobody knows anything about safes, and there are no very bendy people able to hide in them. I probably wouldn't want to watch this movie, but I believe that for some reason, that's kind of what combat often feels like in D&D. Because very often, every PC has the same relationship to the fight, meaning it's all about seeing an enemy in front, attacking it, and then waiting for your next turn, and rinse and repeat. I hear people say Mercer cares about his players, and I think it's true, but it's not just about being a good human being. This helps him create better fights too, because it allows him to design fights where specific characters have cool moments to shine or feel extra special because there is something in there that echoes with their character's story or personality. For example, I like the fight against Ripley in Campaign 1. She didn't just attack the party at random, but focused her fire pretty much exclusively on Percy. She used weapons she built based on his designs, and ignored the others to try and kill him specifically. If you want to take this kind of stuff to your own games, I think you should try to track what makes each PC feel powerful or unique. Doesn't have to be written down, but have a mental note about it somewhere to then design a one moment per fight where that thing is shown and matters. It can be purely mechanical too. For example, if one of the players is playing a grappler kind of character, just play near cliffs sometimes, just so the players can throw the enemies off. You can find similar things for every type of character. Paladins love to smite a strong undead commander guy. Try to target the specific things that make the players feel awesome. You can even think a bit outside the box. Maybe one of the creatures in your fight talks a lot, and the bard can start to reason with them mid-combat. I'm sure that'd be a cool thing. In the end, what we're trying to do here, and what I feel like is one of Mercer's superpowers, is transform know your players and their characters from a feeling into something affecting the mechanical aspects of the game. Sometimes you want to be subtle about it, but on occasion, I think it's also cool to actually go all in and just put a pack of small monsters really close to each other right after the wizard hit level 5, if you know what I mean. Right, cool. So now you know what your encounter stakes are, and you have included specific things to make individual characters shine. You have the outside shell of the fight with some important bits, but how do we connect the dots? Because that's another thing Mercer's very good at. His encounters evolve, and to do this, he follows a structure he basically stole from video games. To explain this, I think we need to specifically look at how Matt designs boss fights. I think one line I found in a Geek and Sundry DM Tips video gives us a pretty good idea about his philosophy on the matter. Matt suggests that when a foe gets below a certain threshold of damage, they gain new abilities, or transform, like some crazy video game fights. If you've ever played a video game before, this feels trivial, but please take a moment to consider what it actually means, story-wise. The boss gets more dangerous as he gets weaker. I think that's a superpower most fighters would love to have in real life. Like, I've never gotten to an MMA cage before, but I guess your punches aren't faster and don't hit harder in the last round as you get tired. So why does it work great in video games and, well, D&D? I believe it is because, again, it makes the fight feel more like a story. The party thinks they're winning. Victory seems close. And then there's some kind of explosion or transformation and phase 2 begins. You reshuffled the cards last minute. The alternative is, round 1, there's uncertainty, because you worked on the previous points we discussed, and nobody knows how this is gonna go. But then, in the round 2, the optimizing begins, because they figured out what works. And then they just rinse and repeat until they reach the expected outcome. So even if you put that cliff in there, or that undead leader guy we were talking about, the tension can only go down. Matt Mercer understands this and actively fights it. What is cool about multi-phases fights like this is that the players just get the impression that the monster revealed its true power, which is a lot more enjoyable. Building the escalation into the structure of the encounter can take many forms too, like the damage milestones in the quote I told you about, where the boss transforms at say 50% HP, for example. But it could also be waves of reinforcements that arrive every X rounds, or environmental shifts with collapsing towers and floors that actually turn into lava so we can all finally live this fantasy. I think what you can try to do is take the lair action mechanic and apply it to non-boss encounters. You take the initiative count 20 trigger, but apply it to your more casual fights. For example, a smaller fight in a warehouse could have crates falling on the characters. Once you've picked the phase mechanism you like to spice up your encounter, one additional trick I think works very well is to end the fight with complications, like the enemy escaping with information or the recovered artifact actually being cracked and now unstable. Kind of like a bonus phase at the end of the fight that acts as a smooth transition to the next story beat. I think the Otahan encounter in Campaign 3, Episode 33 is a great example of a fight where cool mechanics and story elements converged. Beyond the raw mechanical aspects, Otahan manipulating Imogen during the fight triggered a huge psychic explosion that leveled the battlefield. Mercer used the fight to push a character until she broke, which made the story more intense. So yeah, Mercer is talented. He has a team behind him. They craft terrain, there is lighting and all kinds of fancy stuff. And the players are great voice actors, just like he is, sure. But I don't think the reason why his combats are so cool is any of that. I think they're good because he is treating them as dramatic scenes. And it's because he understood this that Critical Role gained traction and became what it is today, because people liked it. But I'm pretty sure his pre-Critical Role home games already felt pretty amazing. If you take nothing else from this video, take this. Try to have one terrain feature someone can interact with and one specific moment designed for a precise character. It will get you started and is already enough to make a fight stand out and stop feeling like math homework. There's nothing wrong with math, by the way, but you know what I mean. So, okay, your encounters are good now. Awesome, but I think we still have a problem. There is one specific type of environment that we use a lot in D&D, and which makes it harder to make combats matter. I'm talking about dungeons, because the way they're built means the players kinda expect fights in specific rooms, which can kill suspense and ruin our efforts. So click on this video next to find out what is actually in a great dungeon to learn how to fix this.